You're good. I'll go ahead and jump in with everyone. Okay, great. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and I can start, and we will break down some charts here as Blaine gets set up. I appreciate everyone's patience as we are doing this. As I said, we just had to get off of a call that ran a little late. So if you know us, you know we're usually right on getting ready right then. But here we are. We're looking at SPY. The first chart we're going to break down right now. Let me maybe make this a little bit larger so that's just a little bit easier to see. And as Blaine said, bit of a turbulent day here for the market. I know that Blaine was up at the crack of dawn addressing trades this morning as things started to really breakdown in the morning. And as we can see, looking at SPY, we're looking at a 1 year chart right now. We have been talking for the last number of weeks that we were in a period of consolidation. Now, if you follow us along in Trade of the Day Live consistently, or you are on YouTube and you have watched some of our more recent YouTube videos, then you know that Blaine was concerned, right? We were in this range. We had dipped below the 50-day moving average over the past few weeks, and we were really getting stuck there. And let me go ahead. I'm going to update my chart so that you can see the 50-day simple moving average on my chart too. Here we were. Okay, we were looking at the last couple of months, trading nicely above it, really grinding higher, and then 2026 started. We started to stall out. We started to see this as we really weren't making new highs. And then what occurred, which was at towards the beginning of February, was that we broke below that 50-day moving average. I'm going to zoom in here from a 1 year chart down to a couple months so you can get a better feel for exactly what we were seeing. And I'll go ahead and make that bold. Okay, a little bit easier here. So we were making new highs, everything was fine into 26, and then we saw this period of stalling out. And Blaine and I said, okay, we're consolidating. That's not the end of the world. That's fine. We can be consolidating, but we need a positive storyline or something positive to push us higher again. And we said, typically stocks, ETF indexes that are consolidating, they're either going to break up and out of consolidation and trade higher, or they're going to break down out of consolidation and break lower. And we started to see the series of lower highs. You can see starting in late January, these highs started to decline. Not the best sign. We also started to see some lower lows here. So mid-January low, and then that early February, a little bit lower. And then we saw a dip below that 50-day moving average, which I'm highlighting right here towards mid-February, which we had dipped below the 50-day moving average a number of times in the previous months. And that's, what we can see here in late November and in December. And really, every time we broke below that 50-day moving average, we quickly traded up and out of it, which is a very positive sign. But we started to just settle right below the 50-day moving average. And this is when Blaine really sounded the alarm. He said, I don't love this movement. I'm concerned now that we're starting to consistently trade below the 50-day moving average. Unless things really turn around, we could really break down from here, especially after testing this level a number of times. I'm looking at roughly what that 675 level that we bounced off of about 3 times just between January and February. We finally broke down below that level today. And what we're seeing is, I mean, we're right now above it for current trading, but we broke well below it. Not only did we break below that 675 level, we are going all the way back to, that 670 level, which we haven't seen since about mid-December. So it is positive what we're seeing, that we're well off of the lows, I will say, but the fact that we broke down below that support is short-term bearish. I would say. And
Elaine, I'm back now, by the way, too. Sorry to
oh,
interrupt.
you're good, Blaine. You're good. Blaine, did you want to jump in? I assume you heard us talking along for SPY.
I did, yeah, yeah. I appreciate you walking everybody through. Sorry, my browser decided to go and take a break there for a second, but
You're
it's all
good.
back up and running now. So thanks for running through it. But yeah, as you were saying, Helene, it was definitely something that we started to kind of sound the alarm on, several weeks ago. That at the index
Hmm.
level, we were starting to get a little worried. Really starting to struggle now with that 50-day moving average for the S&P. I mean, you can see that we've
Yes.
really now failed to get back up above it, remain above it. So that obviously from seeing a constructive orderly uptrend, starts to present some worries in the short term. Certainly today, credit to the market. Yesterday, despite the events of the weekend, there were some pretty encouraging signs. Like, okay, maybe we can, continue this rotation, kind of flee to defense. Go to the energy names, things that are, probably going to be set up to, have some, positive price action from all this. So there were some constructive things yesterday, but of course, seeing what happened again, starting to continue to escalate. Obviously, the market's gotten spooked. There's a lot of concerns about things going on in the energy markets, and so you end up with a day like today where certainly we're well off of the lows right now, Helene.
Hmm.
But today's trading definitely has not been very encouraging for the short term here. I'm going to go ahead and take over the screen share if that's okay. I have my chart pulled up
Yeah, give
too.
me just 1 second.
But
All right,
obviously well off
go
the
for it, Blaine.
lows, but we've been talking so much about this tight range, Helene, that the market has been in, really for several months now. And the bottom end, the support being right, we were just calling it 6,800. It was a couple points below there, but really being able to hold a close around 6,800. Really not trading intraday even too much below that, but of course, today's trading action has certainly changed that. So you can see here clearly. Let me go ahead and get the actual 200-day and 50 on here on the chart. My apologies. But you can see here clearly in the chart, we've dropped well below that here in today's session. I'll go ahead and tighten the frame in here just so you can see it a little bit even better. But you can see clearly we've gone all the way down. We started actually testing 6,700 intraday. Now we rallied off of it, so that there's a bit of a kind of a mixed signal here that it's encouraging seeing rallying well off the lows, but clearly this is a new shorter term intraday low. Definitely something, Helene, we're watching very, very closely here because we really struggled to break out to the upside. We had a lot of upside resistance, and that ceiling kind of has progressively started to move down, compressing that range down. And now we're seeing some breakouts. We've clearly broken out below support now here to the downside. A couple things we're watching here really closely, Helene. I don't know if you're still with us or not, but here, just looking at the charts, there's a couple levels that really stand out to me. One, obviously dating back to last year. So we do have this low close that we're above now. We traded below it intraday today. Definitely be looking out, down to about the 67.25 level. That's kind of a softer level of support. We did rally, right around in that area today. But that's one area we're at the index level watching very, very closely here. Then, dating back to again last year to this low of November, this would be, certainly below, this is several resistance level or excuse me, support levels down. So you're looking back to here to about 65.50, call it right here on the S&P. And then of course to our green line here is our, very quickly upward sloping 200-day moving average. And Helene, this is something that, we brought this up several weeks ago, right around we started to, eventually get some of these signs that we're starting to break down below the 50-day moving average.
Hmm.
The 200-day moving average is sloping up in a very meaningful way. We were compressing that range, now starting to have some momentum break down and start to see some price action on the downside. That these two could be on a bit of a collision course here. So definitely a very solid floor of support. That we need to see hold. At that 200-day moving average. I can't say exactly when we're going to test it, exactly where that level is going to be, but it's clearly within a couple bad trading days of that being a possibility. So certainly something we're watching very close there today. But just looking across the market here today, Helene, this is just a sector kind of sector overview here of just all the S&P sectors. There's really nowhere to hide. in today's market from a bullish standpoint. Generally you get some of these kind of shocks, geopolitical shocks, things like that. You'll see, utilities or healthcare, staple, something like that rise. We've already seen a pretty good run in some of those. So, I mean, you can see, all of the 11 S&P sectors, Helene, are down today. Again, well off the lows, but the energy is doing the best out of all of them. It's still down about 0.5%. Of course, tech is shockingly, tech is actually not doing the worst. You're getting some of those really beaten up areas in tech are getting a bit of a relief bounce today. You can see that here on just the overall heat map. A lot of those software names are continuing to get that oversold bounce, but you can see, a lot of, selling pressure across the board. Definitely a tougher day for markets. And, Helene, one thing that really has stood out to me today, I'm not sure if you happen to catch this, but we've been talking
What,
about some
Blaine?
of the pillars that have been kind of holding this market up. Obviously, there's been pockets of weakness for some time. Um, whether you talk about what's going on, in the software space, like we were just talking about, the financials, have had a really tough time here of late. But you take a look at a couple of the really strong bull market areas, that have been really holding up, and that, very concentrated in the tech trade was the semis, the semiconductors, the chip stocks. They had continued to really look quite strong here of late. And we're starting to see some degradation of that trend too. We quite, still haven't quite made a new lower low yet. But of course, looking at the chart of the SMH right here, down in 3 of the past 4 sessions, well off of the all-time high. Last week it was trading at 425. Today we traded all the way down to about call it 387. So a pretty sharp pullback right there. Almost all the way down to the lower channel there. It's kind of flirting right with its own 50-day moving average now at this point. So, we're kind of seeing one, supporting leg that was really holding up a big pocket of the market, being the semis, starting to show some weakness there. So one thing to really note with that. Another thing too, Helene, is what's going on in international stocks. That was another, really, really encouraging sign. Is this right here is just VEA, Helene. This is the developed markets ETF. So this is international,
Okay. Wow.
ex-US, developed markets. This is not emerging. This is developed markets. You can see what's happened in this in the past 2 days
Oh
because
my
obviously
gosh.
we're anticipating some energy disruptions here in the States. Obviously, much less than some of the other countries around the world that are much more dependent on oil coming out of the Middle East and gas coming out of the Middle East. And you can see, I mean, this was one of the most constructive trends in the market. You're seeing huge outperformance, from developed markets, even compared just to the U.S. stocks. And this it just got absolutely blown apart here in the past 2 days. It looked, like it was trying to catch a bid yesterday. It finished not too far off the highs. And then of course, just today, the bottom fell out of this trade. Same thing with emerging markets too. It's not much better there either. But you can see again, very similar pattern there. Obviously, pricing in some very large energy disruptions because of what's going on in the Middle East right now. One final thing too, Helene, before we kind of go into some possible trade ideas for today, is
Okay.
that the market has started to rapidly price in less interest rates cuts for this year. You just to rewind to a month ago, several weeks ago, the market was still anticipating one, but kind of leaning towards 2 cuts this year, especially with kind of the change in the guard and the Fed. Typically when you get, a geopolitical disruption, you're going to see rates fall because people are taking that flight to quality. They're buying gold, they're buying treasuries, because they're trying to go to those safe haven assets, right? And
Yep.
so the surprising thing is that that's not exactly what we've seen this time. Rates have actually been increasing since the events of this past weekend. You can see the move. This is a chart of the 10-year U.S. Treasury here, yield, Helene. Looking last week, the yield was actually below 4%. You can see the skyrocketing move it's had here in the past 2 days. I mean, it's just ripped higher, and the reason for this is because we were starting to already got one hot inflation report last week. We are starting to now price in that we're possibly going to get no rate cuts this year because of what potential energy disruptions could mean for inflation, and seeing some further inflation coming down the pike. So, they're really not starting to see a lot of people, flee to those treasuries, buy U.S. treasuries like you typically would, amid some of these geopolitical disruptions because of the ramifications for the energy market. So, just kind of wanted to explain to folks what's exactly going on out there, what's exactly driving the price action, and why, a couple of the things that you might have expected to happen are not exactly happening. So I know that was, maybe a little, in the weeds, kind of in depth, kind of moving at a fast pace there, but just wanted to cover those things because on a day like this, you wake up and you see at the open the Dow down 1,200 points. It's certainly a little unsettling, but just wanted to, at least explain to folks. Obviously, the source of all this is the events over the past weekend, but just wanted to explain exactly, what is going on out there. But Helene, anything you want to add? Any comments you have, um, about any of that?
No, Blaine, I had opened up the room when you were getting set up, and so I think I've added everything I needed to on the overview.
Okay, awesome. Well, I certainly appreciate it. And so Helene, like we were saying, bit of an interesting story here in the markets today. Given some of the uncertainty, obviously seeing the VIX spike quite a bit today. It is off of its highs, but volatility is definitely picking up. This is something that we anticipated was going to happen. Maybe not exactly the catalyst we thought that was going to cause it, but we were anticipating having some volatility, heading into the spring here and this year. So, it seems like it certainly is here. And so we kind of walk through, what we're watching for on the charts, levels that we're paying attention to that we think are going to be really significant. Some of those ones we just covered earlier. But obviously here in the short term, definitely, looks like we're going to go down and start trying to test some of those support levels. We're again, like I said, we're seeing some of the stronger, legs that were kind of holding up this this bullish market, even really kind of the global bullish market. Seeing some of those things start to struggle a bit as well. So, because of that, excuse me, Helene, yeah, I think that, we're going to probably start pivoting to looking for even more bearish setups. I know that, that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing that, again, we've been targeting some of these here lately. I mean, if you were here for last week's TOD Live show, you know that I was talking about, I sold a credit spread last week on strategy because I saw the chart there. My profit surge indicator had spotted a really great bearish entry signal. So I was entering, a bearish position on strategy because, what my systems were telling me. Obviously, the trade's continuing to do fairly well here today. But Helene, that's kind of where I'm focusing right now. This is
Okay.
I don't have a specific trade for today. I don't actually have it pulled up. By the way, your camera's off. I don't know if you know that, but I can't see you. Um, but just was letting you know. But I don't have the specific trade pulled up here today because one thing, Helene, is that when we get a day like this, when you get a huge spike in volatility, I mean the VIX moved up within striking distance of 30 today. So we start to see that. That's typically not a day that we're looking to put on fresh positions one way or the other. We're just trying to kind of let things sort themselves out in the market. Obviously, manage risk in the meantime. If you see a position that's starting to show signs of weakness, obviously, stick to your discipline, follow your methodology and, manage risk accordingly. But I don't, I'm not looking to put on any new positions here today. Just trying to
Mm-hmm.
find, areas where I want to kind of add to my buy or sell list to be looking for opportunities coming up. So, again, still really focusing on some of these opportunities of weakness here. This is one clearly, Helene, Oracle. This stock has been troubled for some time now.
Oh yeah.
It's about 50% or more off its highs. It's continuing to put a really decisive downtrend in play here. Just a very carving out a really clear series of lower lows and lower highs. So this is definitely a very strong bearish opportunity that I've spotted here recently. You can clearly see that the trend lines are in your favor to the downside with this one. Some other ones you probably heard about here recently, Helene, are going to be in the private credit, private equity space. There's a lot of concerns going on in that space right now. About whether a lot of the private credit loans that they're sitting on are truly as valuable as they say they are, and just worries about possibly whether these companies are going to be sitting on some big losses. So that's kind of what's put these stocks under pressure. But this is KKR right here. There's a whole basket of these. These are of course the equity side, the private equity side of the business. There's the the BDCs that are more private credit side as well. But I mean, you can see right here for KKR, this stock is now sitting. I think yesterday at intraday went down to a new 52-week low. Didn't quite close there. Or well, let's see. Yeah, not quite a 52-week low close, but it traded intraday down to one, not too far off of it today. So you can see this is a real spot of weakness in the market right here. So just a couple ideas of where I'm looking for some potentially fresh bearish trade opportunities here in the days to come.
Well, I actually do have a trade for today.
Okay, interesting.
So I am going to share my screen. And I hear what you're saying, Blaine. I know when the market is turbulent, it can be good to stand on the side, and I don't disagree with you. But I will say that there's a stock that I've been watching for a while, and somehow it is up very nicely today. And not only that, it's also showing a profit surge buy signal on top of that. So let
Nice.
me go ahead. I'm going to show you guys, first of all, my profit surge scanner, where you can see on this left side here, I have my scanner and I have the chart on the right. There are two buy signals today. That's just the kind of day it is, right? Like when the market is having a day like this, there aren't going to be many buy signals. But the ones that do show up, they're pretty strong trends. I mean, wow, if they're able to buck the trend on a day like today, that means that their bullish trend is pretty darn amazing. And so, what I'm looking at is HCA. This has been a stock that has been on my buy list for some time. I'd been waiting for it to cool back down after it had made a pretty strong move. And as you can see, it's had a number of different buy signals over the past week or so. Specifically in the last 3 days, it's been on buy signals, which is telling me that it is setting up for a leg higher. So I am looking to trade a HCA, which is a healthcare stock, hopefully one that will not be too affected by the broader geopolitical events that are occurring since it is healthcare providers. So here I am. I'm looking at my chart again. This is on not Thinkorswim, stock charts, and I have my Keltner channels here. I have the 21-day EMA and the 63-day EMA overlaid. We can see here that it's been on a buy signal since August of 2025, and it has remained on that buy signal since then. Not only that, as I had said, I had been waiting for HCA to kind of cool down a bit because you can see over the past month or so, it keeps having these big spikes above the upper channel. I mean, it's on a very bullish run. And so here we are, it's pulled back to the middle channel. It's starting to trade higher, even with everything else going on. So I'm looking to be very conservative and do a call option debit spread. I'm doing a 5-point spread for April, and I'm doing the 490 and 495 strikes. So look, here I am. The lower Keltner channel is at 495. The 490, 495 spread, it's fully below that lower Keltner channel, which gives me an incredible amount of downside protection. And I will say I've been trying to trade HCA with the spread leading into this because, as you saw, has had a number of buy signals over the past couple weeks. But the problem I was running into was that there was not enough time value in the options, right? I
Mhm.
really wanted to be conservative with my position. I need enough time value in the options to do that. And when we see days with heightened volatility, even though it can be hurting our account and our current positions, the one thing that it does provide is additional time value in options, meaning that you can find typically more call option debit spreads that are in the money that meet our criteria on higher volatility days and market times. So that's exactly what I'm seeing right now with HCA, a stock that had been fairly low in the time value of its options, now has had a boost in the time value because of the broader volatility in the market, making it possible for me to enter a very conservative call option debit spread for them. So here I am, April 17th. Let's see. I am selling the 495, and I could either do a 5-point spread or a 10-point spread. Both of them would be selling the 495. I'm going to do a 5-point spread, just having a lower cost basis. And as you can see, it's the April 17th, 490. and 495 strike spread. It's currently trading at 405. Ideally, with a 5 point spread, I'm entering at 4 points or lower. This is a little bit higher. Our team goes up to 430 on a 5 point spread for the cost. That's because call option debit spreads have a limited profit potential, meaning they have a maximum that they can make you. So if you are entering at 430 or lower on a 5 point spread, that means you have at least a 20% profit potential on the position. So here I am at 405. I'm going to go ahead and place my spread. I'm going to place a limit order. And I'm gonna do just above halfway between the bid and the ask because as you can see, this is a very wide bid-ask spread. The bid is 10 cents, the ask is 8 points, which is just telling me that, you know, not many people are trading this. That's okay. It doesn't deter me from trying to enter into a good-looking trade, right? Like a wide bid-ask spread, as long as I'm using my limit orders.
I
That's
was
the
going to
most
say that's why you have limit orders, right?
exactly. So I'm gonna place my trade at let's do 410. Let's do 410. I'll let it bounce around today. I'll see if it gets filled. If it doesn't, that's okay. I might adjust a little bit higher if I need to later, but I'm happy. I'd be happy. Oh, immediately filled.
There you
See?
go.
At
Yep.
my limit order. That's what the awesome, like we get a lot of questions about, will you not enter this if the bid ask spread is wide? No, we will. We'll try to, but we're going to use our limit orders in order to get in at a good price. We're not just going to fill at any price. Um, so, so yeah, that was my
Definitely a
trading
really great
decision.
point there. And Helene, too, don't want to just be like complete bearer of bad news today. Like there are still some good bullish opportunities out there. Obviously, the one you found there, really interesting. Certainly a very defensive play. One, with a healthcare name like that, it's been on a
Mhm.
good trend. It is up today in a very broadly down market. I mean, even that equal weight trade, that's been working here so well lately. With 90% of stocks, across the market, being down earlier today. Obviously, it's going to be tough for many. But this, is one nice bright spot you found, and again, it's a more conservative setup there, and also
Yeah.
too, a trade with nice profit potential, but also some defined risk and a conservative way to play that trade. So really great looking setup, and there's
Thanks.
several other charts out there too that still look constructive. It's not to say that there's not constructive trends out there.
Of
There
course.
still are some good looking things in the industrial space, particularly some of the defense names for obvious reasons. Um, there are some setups in the energy space, that still look pretty constructive too. Yeah, I just personally, when I see the VIX spike up to near 30, I generally try and hold off and kind of let the dust settle a bit. But it definitely a good looking setup there that you found with that one.
Hey,
And there's
that's
other
why
ones
we're
out there
both
too.
on here, right? Differing opinions, differing trading strategies, similar in how we analyze things at the end of the day and how we trade. But yeah, no, definitely wanted to show there's always a bull market somewhere, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, usually so. Yeah, usually somewhere. And
and
Holland, I
it
see
looks
you
like
were
we
asking the software. I think you were
yeah.
talking about the charts that Helene had pulled up there. That was her Thinkorswim, and he was using
Mm,
a profit surge dashboard product. It's our proprietary indicator tool. So that's what she was just looking at there. And so I see we already have one ticker in the chat, Helene. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are tuned in that would like us to look at some charts.
yeah.
But I think we're probably ready for that part of the show, right? To go ahead and start fielding some tickers and ideas from folks in the chat.
Totally, yeah. Yeah. So guys, if you have not yet, our chat is open. You are able to go ahead and type in some different tickers, some different stocks that you want us to analyze. We're going to take a little bit of time and look at your trades. And if you don't throw any in there, Blaine and I will just look at some of our favorites. So definitely go ahead, or at least notable ones, right? Go ahead, take a moment. If there's a stock that you want us to look at, let us know in the chat. We're going to look at it through our lens as position traders, momentum traders, trend followers, that sort of deal. And so go ahead and put it in the chat and we will get looking. Blaine, did you want to share the screen?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And yes, definitely, please go ahead and put those in there. Obviously, please keep in mind, folks, this is for educational purposes only, not to be interpreted as official investment advice. Also, too, Helena or myself could possibly hold positions in the stocks and ETFs, equities that we're discussing here. But just want to get that little reminder out of the way. But let's go ahead and hop right into the first one is actually going to be CDE. That's our first ticker there. Mining stock here from John. Appreciate you throwing that in here. And so it looks like this is a gold miner here. This is another interesting too here, Helene, because given what's been going on in the Middle East here in the past couple of days, you feel like you would have seen people flocking to gold, as a safe haven asset. There's been so much of
Mhm.
a momentum trade in the precious metals here recently. You're actually seeing some risk-off behavior in the precious metals, and obviously it's going to have an effect on the mining stocks too. The mining stocks are going to be down more than the precious metals. So you can see obviously big reversal here in the past couple of days. Particularly today, it's off the lows, but it's down about 11%. I would say before the last 2 days, Helene, I would say this was an incredibly bullish chart. Because it had recovered after that consolidation. Earlier in February was pushing up against new 52-week highs there. That's a very bullish thing, but obviously, it looks like it's starting to suffer a little bit from the sell-off in gold. That's definitely been a catalyst here. So it has pulled back to the middle Keltner channel. Doesn't mean that this current breakout is over, but definitely experienced some pretty hyper volatility here in the past couple days.
Yeah, exactly. That's the type of move that I would not be looking to enter a position today on, right? I would be waiting to see what price action is going to occur over the next couple of days because, as Blaine said, it's not a complete breakdown of the trend when we see a drop like this. But it is telling me, okay, I'm going to take a moment. If it starts to trade higher, then I would consider that potentially a resumption of that bullish trend and look for an entry and a position. But today would not be that day for that chart,
Yeah, yeah,
personally.
I definitely would like to see, a nice day in the black, have a resumption of that uptrend for sure, to be a little bit more comfortable, with knowing that trend's going to reverse higher. But definitely an interesting setup. Obviously, it's up nicely on the year, but just
Yeah.
for a new position, totally agree. We'd like to see a little bit more positive price action. You'd like to see it close near the highs of today. Have some confirmation of that tomorrow, things like that. Let's see here. The next one is actually going to be Verizon. And so I know these
Okay.
stocks, again, this is one of the minor bright spots in today's market. The telecom stocks, I feel certain that the chart for AT&T and T-Mobile probably looked very similar. I know these stocks have just gone vertical here recently as, the market has, really taken much more of a defensive tilt. Certainly, technically speaking, several readings here that says that it's very, very overbought, but it's been showing that here for a while now. Obviously, very clear trend reversal. So some undoubtedly bullish price action here. It's in a nice uptrend, but given that it is a telecom stock, it is a defensive. Certainly, pretty cautious on this. I mean, Helene,
Hmm.
this might be helpful to actually look at this one in profit surge to see actually how far above this one is above its 50-day moving average, because I'm sure it is substantially above its 50-day moving average,
Yeah.
to which will really illustrate how stretched this move is. So if you could actually go ahead and share that
Yeah.
since you have your Thinkorswim pulled up, but
I was also
uh,
just gonna, before you look at that, Blaine, the only other buy signal today on Profit Surge is actually in the same sector. It's AT&T,
yeah,
which, is not as overheated. But I just wanted
okay.
to point that out because I was like, oh, of course.
For sure. So, definitely a great pocket of strength in a market like this. Definitely defensive. It's what the market's been favoring here lately. But yeah, Helene, let me go ahead and stop my share so I can see what you're looking at. So this
Yeah.
is yeah, yeah. So this
So I currently have that chart for VZ up using the Profit Surge dashboard. And we have a couple of lower studies that help us determine if a stock is currently overbought. Of course, RSI, if you guys follow along, you know that we are always looking at RSI. That RSI today is 75-ish, 74.9, 75, which means that it is overheated in the short term, likely to pull back in the short term. But also, Blaine was just mentioning that 50-day movement. So we have this lower study, and what it does is it tells us the percentage that a stock is above or below the 50-day moving average. Now, if it reaches 15% above that 50-day moving average, it is now overbought.
that's a caution sign.
That's a caution sign. It's a warning. It's like, wait a second. And then if it's over 20%, then it's red hot, not a good time to enter. But that 15% really is that first, oh, things are getting a little heated there. And as
Hmm.
we can see, it's at 16.5 right now.
Right. It's like, and Helene, the point is, that not all uptrends are made the same.
Hmm.
There's uptrends that are very orderly, taking a nice series of higher highs and higher lows, kind of stair stepping higher. And then you have parabolic breakouts more like this one. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
really what we're trying to measure here with that lower study. And so, pretty clear sign that, this has obviously run very far, throw out that it's a defensive telecom. It's run very far, very quickly. 2 weeks ago it was trading at about $40 per share, and now it's up above 50. So it's, up over 20% in just a couple
Hmm.
weeks,
Yeah.
which is just a massive, massive move for stock like this.
Crazy.
Um, so definitely, clearly an uptrend has formed. It's run very far, very quickly. So I would personally be very cautious on this one regarding a near-term entry. So,
Same
but
here.
if been in the trade for a long time, obviously, probably sitting on some pretty nice returns. So there's also that too. So congrats, if you've been in the trade. Let's see. Bruce actually threw up PSX. Elaine, I'm gonna go ahead and take over the screen share again here too,
Yeah, go for it.
so I can pull up Phillips 66. I know this is one that we really like. Kind of mixed price action here today. Obviously broke out to a new 52-week high.
Hmm.
We, clearly, one pocket that's deserving some bullish attention in the markets is the energy sector. Again, without stating the obvious, certainly what happened over the weekends, that's a bullish catalyst for pockets of this. But Helene, year to date, energy has been the strongest performing sector across the market. Um, you know, there's a lot of different things to say about that, but it is what it is. It's where the relative strength has been. There's been very strong price action in energy. Phillips 66 here, obviously, no stranger to that. It's been performing very nicely here, up very, very strongly on the year. Very nice series of higher highs and higher lows that have formed here just year to date, but even just over the past 9 months. So a very constructive chart here. In fact, we actually sent out a trade alert on PSX yesterday to some of our trade alert members that, even as volatility is picking up, all the uncertainty going on, hey, maybe we end up looking wrong in the end, but we actually saw yesterday's price action, a huge jump higher, finished near the close or the high of the day. That's where we closed. And we've continued to, trade higher, intraday today. And we're, marginally pretty much flat, right now, pretty wide range. But, we actually sent out a trade to actually go ahead and enter a trade for PSX. That was what we were looking to do yesterday. So I still like this chart, Helene. What do you think
Yeah.
about PSX?
Yeah, I still like it. And Blaine, I think it's hard to say that you were wrong about the chart when it literally surged today. I mean, it's down off those highs, but it was above 62 and a half and it closed at 160. So, I mean, like, that's a nice move already, but I am overall still bullish on that chart. Um, you know, of course, the market's down. The stock might be down a little bit. That doesn't mean that it is,
Right. Yeah,
going.
it's hard. I mean, it's amazing that there's a handful of stocks that are actually up decently today.
Hmm.
Given the price action. I mean, again, like you wake up and you see that all three of the major indices are down over 2% at the open. That's tough sledding for any stock.
Totally.
And here we go. We just turned green, so that's great. We'll take the win, right? Um,
Exactly.
so
But I really like the chart. I really like this position. I definitely think there's room to go higher.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, too, again, just kind of zooming out here, Phillips is not the only energy stock that looks great. It's a mixed picture across the energy basket. We have to, kind of be a little bit more discerning, not just, buying energy broadly, but, these are the refiners. I mean, pull up another chart on one of the other refiners. Look at Valero today. I mean, this is one of the other major
Hmm.
refiners. Take a look at this chart. I mean, it's the refiners are, uh, as they say, kicking butt and taking names. So, I mean, just great looking trend here. So really, really strong stuff from the refiners. There's certainly reasons connected to the current geopolitical unrest that's causing these to rally, but some very powerful uptrends going on in these for sure. So let's see. Dell put in there Coherent. So this company actually got some big news yesterday, Helene, which
No.
explains obviously the huge leap higher and uh, you know given today's price action, it's not down substantially. It's only down about 3.4%. So, given the context, not too bad. But they had a monster partnership announced yesterday with Nvidia. Obviously, the stock has been in a very strong uptrend, rallying alongside with it trades kind of connected with the semi conductor trade because this is a big data center input stock right here. They're creating some of the connecting equipment, networking equipment inside the data center. But anyways, just looking at the trend though, again, very powerful uptrend here, Helene. Again, the stock was just trading and closed at new all-time highs just yesterday. So obviously, very constructive stuff there. The trend lines are very constructive. It has gone, a little bit parabolic at this point. So,
Hmm.
we actually have some trade alerts on for the stock here that have been out there for quite some time now. We put these trades on, a number of weeks, if not over a month ago. So at that point, the trade was looking a little bit less parabolic. Obviously, here in the past 2 weeks, it's really taken off. So I'd be a little hesitant for newer entries at this point.
Yeah.
Helene, particularly compared to what the broader semiconductor trade has done, which certainly the stock has a high correlation to. But just specifically focusing on this one, again, very strong trend that has gained a lot of ground here in the past, two trading days. But I like the trend, but I'd probably be a little hesitant, waiting for a pullback maybe to the middle counter channel. Let it get some of that excess out of the system first.
Totally agree. I'd wait for a further pullback before an entry. That's for sure.
Yep, without a doubt.
Okay, next up from Greg. Hey, you guys, how are you? We're good. We're good. Doing well. Hope you're doing well too. What are your thoughts on Circle? Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Greg.
Yeah, thanks,
Let's
Greg.
look
Appreciate it.
at Circle. Oh, this is so interesting. Okay. Blaine, zoom in. Zoom in. We can't see. I mean, at least I can't see. Maybe other people
Yeah,
can.
I'll tighten the frame up a little bit. I mean, I think it's helpful to see what the stock's done since the IPO, obviously. So,
Sure.
been
Yes.
a big downtrend there. But yeah, Helene, the stock reported earnings the other day and had,
Wow.
they, well surpassed what the market was expecting them to report. And you can see that in the price action. I mean, what are you thinking about seeing this one here?
Yeah, um, this is so interesting. As since the IPO, as Blaine said, it's been just trending down. A number of similar stocks that IPO'd at the same time have all done the same thing, right? We talked about this a couple sessions ago. That group of IPOs has all really traded down. But what we saw, what I'm seeing, is a bottoming out in February from oversold conditions where it just about hit 50. And since then, it found its footing and started to trade higher from there. That catalyst of the earnings looks like it's clearly breaking out, breaking higher right now. In the very, very short term, it's overheated, well above the upper counter channels. I also will say that it's probably like 2 trading days away from being on a confirmed profit surge buy signal, which I would see if it stays up there, it's gonna happen in the next couple of days. But I really like what I'm seeing here. I'd wait for a pullback into the counter channels and then a resumption of the bull trend, right? So a pullback when people are taking profits, and then that beginning of a trade higher. I would also wait for that profit surge buy signal just to make sure that everything is firing on all cylinders when it comes to that buy signal. And yeah, I'm really liking this. I'm really, really liking what I'm seeing here. I'm bullish on Circle right now just from seeing this. Blaine, what do you think?
Yeah, a couple thoughts here. So, agreed. It definitely looks like kind of the early stages and early innings of a trend reversal happening here in progress. I mean, it pretty much just looks like at this point, just a matter of time about when the profit surge buy signal is going to trigger, not if.
Hmm.
It looks like those EMAs are on a collision course to, have a bullish convergence there in the next couple trading days. I will note that obviously, the earnings were the catalyst for this.
Hmm.
Coming off of that February low from the first couple trading days there in February, the stock is up more than 100% now in the past 3 weeks.
Oh, you
Keep in
know
mind,
what?
it closed at
That's
50. It closed at 50, and now it's almost all the way up to 105. So it's up, almost 110% in 3 weeks. So uh, obviously, that would warrant a little bit of short-term caution.
Yeah.
Again, it looks like there could be some runway in front of this stock because those earnings were so much better. So there was a fundamental reason for this turnaround. But
Hmm.
other thing too is that keep in mind this is a crypto stock. It's a stable coin issuer here with Circle. That's their business. Their stable coin company. They hold them. They issue them. The whole crypto space has been so challenged. Obviously, I have to take kind of a deeper dive into this trade, but I would be willing to bet, Helene, that this one, heading into that earnings report and probably for much of this downswing over the past, call it 6 months, has been probably heavily shorted. There was probably really heavy short interest in this trade.
Hmm.
And then, after that earnings report getting a big pop, I know it was up, about 30-40% just the day after the earnings report. There's probably been a lot of short covering and a bit of a short squeeze play going on in this one here, seeing a stock gain so much so quickly. So,
Yeah.
because of that, I would be a little hesitant here in the short term. I know we're probably about to see a trend, a trend line buy signal break out. But anytime we see a stock, gain over 100% in 3 weeks, that immediately sends up some, signs of caution for sure. Again, it's coming off very low levels there. It definitely looks like we have a trend reversal in progress. But I think we could see a sustained move higher here, but I would just be a little weary here in the short term. What do you think about that?
Blaine, that is a great point. And I will say, when I was looking at the chart, I'm so used to those, I'm used to the axis being like 1 or 5 point increments. And as you started to talk about that percent move higher, zoomed in a little bit and I was like, wow, those are 5 point increments I'm seeing there. That's a tremendous move. Can you zoom in the chart a little bit more? Because honestly, I think it's hard to get a feel given the chart about how insane this move has been from that perspective, right?
Yeah, so it
Um,
closed at 50 right here on February 5th. So you can see
yeah.
it closed near the lows of the day right at $50 per share. Clearly, traded off of that heading into the earnings. The stock was rallying into the earnings, had a substantial rally into the earnings. I mean, before they reported, it went from 50 to, here it got up to about 66, but closed about 61. So I mean that right there is already, a substantial rally just in that period of time. But since then, obviously, huge, huge move right there.
Yeah.
I mean, let me just go ahead. I'll pull it up. I can probably get a good idea of the short interest by just looking here. I think this is something that our Robinhood usually puts together for all the stocks. So here you go. Yeah. So you can see the short interest has been rising. So heading into that report was up near 15%, and the short interest, you can see people have been covering their shorts here in the past couple of weeks, leading to that spike. So that's exactly what I was talking about. Definitely a short squeeze going on here in that stock. After that really good earnings report. So definitely something to, at least in the short term, warrant a little bit of caution, even though it looks like we definitely have that reversal happening here in real time.
Now, Blaine, how would you handle a short squeeze stock?
I personally don't like to play that. I just don't like to enter the casino.
That's fair. That's fair. I think that's fair to share with everyone because you're saying, because you had said it's a short squeeze, and it's like, okay, well, how do you trade that personally? And so,
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are ways to trade it. I mean, more definitive answer there. Again, personally, you think back to a lot of the memification meme stocks. I mean, you see how easy it is to get burned in a trade like that.
hmm.
Whether trying to buy to participate to the upside in the short squeeze, or trying to call the top and the short term top in the short squeeze and wait for that downswing of momentum. There are definitely people that do that, and there are people that have done that successfully. I'm it's just not it's not the game that I play. It's not my methodology.
Yeah.
It's not how I like to trade. Not saying there's not a way to do it. I'm sure there's some people out there that have figured it out, and maybe they're way smarter than I am. But like I said, I just prefer to not step into that casino.
Well, I think, not trading is a trading strategy for a short squeeze. So, you
Yep.
know, they're just like you said, hey, on days like today with the market, I prefer not to enter new trades. That's a trading strategy still, it's part of a smart trading strategy is not every day is a trading day. Not every stock needs a trade on it on any given day. So yeah, I think that's smart. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right, without a doubt. Yep. No, I appreciate that. I see Greg, he had a follow up too. He said, for the record, I asked you guys a couple months ago, referring to Circle here, at 140, and you told me that you would be looking to sell, and now you're telling me to buy. So
Good
great call
Lord,
so
it makes
far.
a lot of sense.
Greg, I appreciate that. Thank you. Like I said, we just try to kind of give you our honest feedback about, what we would personally do, how we would look to trade each of these setups. So,
Exactly.
um, yeah, definitely appreciate the feedback and comment there.
Well,
But
Blaine,
yeah, like
I
you
think
said,
with that, it has been just about an hour that we've been live here.
yeah,
So
it has been. Yep.
I know we have to get back to the market. It's been a wild one. So I
Definitely been
think
a
at
wild day in
that, we'll
markets, that's
probably
for
need to go
sure.
ahead and wrap it up. But guys, I just want to thank everyone so much for being here live with us. We absolutely love getting to do these sessions with you all. So much fun to be able to break it down, even on these rougher market days. It still is a blast to be here live with you all talking about what is going on. So thank you all so much for your time today, and we'll be live again on Thursday.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we'll see some volatility cool off between now and then. But yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely be back here on Thursday, like you said, Helene. Thank you everybody so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your engagement in the chat. So thank you so much. Appreciate all the comments there. And everybody, just stay calm. It's okay. Best thing is to not panic. Always just, sometimes it's best to just kind of put a pause on things, push
Hmm.
back and just let the dust settle. So there's been a lot of times in the past where there's been things, flare ups and whatnot. And, the best call is just to sit there and, take it easy. So again, not official trading advice there. That's just
Yeah,
personally what I've observed
that's
and
what you do.
what I'm personally doing there. But,
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of my thoughts. But again, thank you all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And